What's up everyone? In this video I'm going to talk about direct communication style. Yes, I'm going to explain my direct communication style and why I believe that a direct communication style is extremely efficient and useful and really the best communication style that you can use for getting what you want. Deciding what you actually want is another story, another video entirely, but in this video I'm going to explain I guess the basics of using a direct communication style, which sounds a little bit weird, but I've found this to be extremely useful when you want other people to understand, when you want to convey information to other people, right? So like there's two types of communication, I would argue, or like I guess as far as I've thought for like the past minute. Direct communication style, which is like, I need to convey this information to this person in as few words as possible. And then there's indirect, or I want to say flowery is what I would say. And maybe I'll make another video on that, but like flowery communication style is designed to elicit an emotional response from the other person, right? So I guess on the one hand you have direct communication style, which is more informational, like I want to inform you of these facts so that you understand them with zero friction. And then you have flowery communication style, which is like I want to create images and feelings in your mind so that you experience certain emotions. And yeah, I'm like using words to like manipulate your emotions, I guess. Manipulate sounds bad, whatever. We'll talk about that another time. In this video, we're going to talk about a direct communication style, how to do it and why it is super awesome. So in my experience, you'll always hear me say that you can avoid a lot of problems in your own life and also problems with other people by using literal terms to describe your experience in life, I guess is the best way to put it, even though that's kind of vague. Case in point, these eating disorder people, right? Bulimics, anorexics, addicts, whatever. What's a good example of this is what all of them like to say, where they'll say like, my relationship with food. That's not direct. That's not a literal statement, right? That is not a direct description of the actual reality. Why do I say that? Because what's actually happening, right? Let's take somebody who has binge eating disorder, right? They're super fat and they stuff themselves on shitty food all the time, and they feel like they're out of control, and it's a big problem for them, and that's their issue, right? And they say something like, I have a bad relationship with food, or like my relationship with food is out of whack, or like whatever. What is actually happening is that they are making the conscious decision to eat certain foods as opposed to other foods, right? They're making a choice to eat, I'm just assuming here, like sweets, sugar, processed food, as opposed to fruits, vegetables, meat, natural food, right? That's what's actually happening. But for whatever reason, they do not describe their actual experience in the literal sense. They don't say, yeah, I have binge eating disorder. I consciously make the decision to eat sugary foods all the time, every day. Because then where do you go from there? You understand? It's like, that's it. That's the end of it. What else can they actually say? I don't want to say it's the truth, but it's closer to the truth than I have a bad relationship with food, because that doesn't actually mean anything. You understand? So in your everyday experience, this is like self-talk. Let's say first, right? In your everyday self-talk, I would encourage you to describe your experience in literal terms, right? If you're angry with somebody, if you're frustrated with yourself, if you're experiencing some sort of undesirable state or emotions, think about specifically what it is that you are reacting to, I guess is the best way to put it. That eating disorder example is kind of, hopefully that's clear, but like maybe if you have another question, like if you have a specific something that's like, I can solve any of your problems, really is what I'm trying to say. Like you have a problem, you can't get over it, tell me what it is and I'll break it down for you in literal terms and I'll tell you how to solve it. Or actually it will become very clear to you how you should solve it. I won't even need to tell you anything. Okay, so that's self-talk, I guess. Now, it's very important when you're communicating with other people that you also use literal terms. It will take a little bit of practice at first. Using a direct communication style like this is not something that comes naturally. And in fact, you'll see when I talk that I frequently pause and like look to the side and think of the best way to say whatever it is that I want to say, because I'm making a conscious effort to describe things in literal terms. And that's something that to be honest with you, why do I do that? Because when you make a video, it lives forever. And I'm secretly in the back of my mind, secretly worried that someday in the future, somebody will be like, well, you said this and you said this in this video. And that's why I need to be as clear as possible with the words that I use. And the best way to do that is to use literal terms to describe everything, or as much as possible. Okay, so when you speak to other people, the best phrase that I could tell you to describe how to use a direct communication style in your own life to talk to other people is to say exactly what you would like to have happen with the other person, right? For example, that's really it, I guess, is the only thing, right? Similarly to how there's only one path to be healthy, which is eating healthy food and exercise, there's only one way really to get what you want from other people, which is to tell them exactly what it is that you want, with the one caveat being any sort of negotiation or seduction or anything like that. Like, that's another video for another time, up to a certain point, right? In the beginning, you do need to be a little bit indirect, but then after a long enough time, like eventually you do need to tell the person what exactly you want. And that's very similar to direct communication style. So for example, let's say you're always fighting with your husband or wife or something, and let's say they always do something that bothers you, and you always do this, you always do that, you always leave the toilet seat up, and you never pick up your clothes, and whatever their problem is, right? It's our natural reaction to state the way in which we believe our rights have been violated, I guess is the best way to put it. That's what comes naturally to us, like as human beings. You did this, you did that, you never do this. But that's inefficient. Might feel good for a second to express your anger, but what I would argue is preferable to that is using the same energy to state something, to make a statement that will in the future eliminate the potential of that behavior that irritated you or made you angry from happening again, right? For example, let's say like, I don't know, whatever, somebody left their dirty dishes in the sink. Instead of saying, no dirty dishes in the sink, you always leave your dirty dishes in the sink, you have to say to that person, please clean your dishes and then put them in the dishwasher. It sounds so basic, right? Like I'm sure many of you watching this are like, well, I know that. That's all. I do that all the time, but these people still don't, respect me or what I say. I mean, you probably don't do it as often as you think, and it requires a conscious effort to phrase things in that way in order to like properly utilize a direct communication style like this and actually get what you want. Now, some people might say upon hearing that, they're like, well, you know what I mean, you know what I'm trying to say, like, what does it matter how I say it? And the fact is that the words that you speak in the order in which you speak them will have a different effect on the person, right? I could give you like a lot of really crude, profane examples, but for example, let's say I always like to use profanity in this, but I, again, can't really do that because it's on YouTube. If I say, I don't know, blue sky. Wow, the sky is blue. The color of the sky is blue. Whatever, I don't know. When I say the color of the sky is blue, you think certain things, and chances are you probably get a flash in your mind of a blue sky, as opposed to if I say, I love Hitler, Hitler's great, right? There's a difference between those two statements in the reaction that it causes you to experience, right? And the beauty, I guess, or the danger of this There's two dangers, really. Number one, nobody really pays attention to what they say. We all just fucking blah, blah, blah words all over the place. Most people do not actually put effort into thinking about how to say things perfectly. That's number one. Number two is that there's no way to prevent the words from affecting you, which is kind of the danger of it, and why I hate the media. And the media is very sinister, because once you turn on the TV, for example, and the anchor is speaking and they're showing you images, I guess you could like close your eyes or look away, but the words are still going to enter your mind and they're still going to cause you to think certain things. So they're not held accountable at all, unfortunately. So I have no solution there. But when you're talking to other people, you can at least make the choice to choose your words carefully, so that, if you care about the other person, you can limit the amount of damage that you do to them by saying something that will actually, harm them in the long run, and also to get what you want. And chances are, if you're a good person, you probably want the other person to be happy and for their life to be good as well, assuming you see them on a regular basis, or even if you don't. Most of us at our core are not really like bad people, I would argue. We don't necessarily like to see people in pain. We just say certain things to prevent ourselves from experiencing pain normally. Anyway, that is my video on a direct communication style and why I think it's awesome, and why I encourage you to put a little bit more effort into the words that you say, specifically putting more effort into phrasing things in as literal terms as possible. It's like an old trick from NLP where they would say, like, what did they say? There's two models of speaking. You have the meta model and the Milton model. And the purpose of the meta model is to get as specific as possible with the words that you say. So you would actually like break down a sentence and say like, oh, it's very hot today. Right? Well, it's very hot today compared to what other day, right? Very hot compared to what? What do you mean by hot? Today, like what time today specifically? So like it's very pedantic, you could argue, but it's very hot today is different, will elicit a different response or reaction from somebody than saying today at 12:36 p.m. The temperature was 117 degrees Fahrenheit. Do you understand? Those are two very different statements, even though they kind of say the same thing. One is going to elicit a different reaction than the other. And that's a very benign statement. That's not going to cause anybody any sort of pain. But when you say something to somebody like, you never care, you don't care about me, or like, you never respect me, or you never listen to what I say. Is it really as absolute as that? Or is it more like, every time I ask you, or, for the past, 3 nights a week, when I make dinner and it's your turn to wash the dishes, I have to ask you 2 or 3 times to actually wash them. And that frustrates me. So I would like in the future if you didn't do that, right? Which is actually, I would argue, what you really want them to say. Because if you break it down in a specific enough way, then you'll realize that your problems actually are not these like grandiose things that you build up in your mind for them to be this like universal like law of the world that's fucking you over, right? See what I did there? A little bit of vague language, but it's actually a very specific set of circumstances that is causing you to experience negative emotions. And once you define it like that, the problems have very clear solutions. Cool. Did that make any sense? I don't really know. I hope it did. Was that interesting to you guys at all? Do you care about this kind of thing? I could nerd out on this stuff forever, to be honest with you. But you guys probably just want to like talk about vegetables and shit. I don't know. Let me know. Leave me a comment. Peace.